148, Silva versus Sonnen, the greatest fight in the history of the Ultimate Fighting Championship. I'm John Franklin. This is the Hot Cage Podcast, UFC 148 edition. I'm joined by TJ Craig of the Hot Cage Daily, co-editor, and we're going to go over the fight card and all things UFC 148. TJ, how are you?
Doing great, John. How's it going?
It's good. So let's dive right into it. Let's start talking about, obviously, the main card, Anderson Silva versus Chael Sonnen. It's a rematch, probably the biggest rematch in UFC history. What are your thoughts on the fight?
Man, I am excited about this fight. I mean, how couldn't you be? I mean, everything that's coming up with this fight, the rematch, the trash talking, Anderson Silva coming out. Look at the Spider, what he's doing. Man, it's exciting to me. I can't wait. I can't wait for Saturday.
I can't remember a card where it's been this exciting and there's been this much kind of, the Jones and Rashad and Rampage, UFC 100 had a lot of hype. I mean, there's been some hyped cards before, but let's go ahead and we'll take a look at the particulars, and then we'll talk about some of the stuff that happened at the weigh-in. So here's the breakdown for Silva and Sonnen. So we'll go down the list. Fighting out of Curitiba, Brazil, is Anderson Silva. He's 37 years old. He weighed in 185 pounds today. He's 6'2", 77.6 reach, 18-3 record. His notable wins are Rich Franklin, Peter Belfort, Chael Sonnen, obviously, and Dan Henderson. On the other side, Chael Sonnen is fighting out of Portland, Oregon, the mean streets of West Lynn, to be more specific. He's 35 years old, 186 pounds, 6'1", 74-inch reach, 13-3. He beat Paulo Philo. He beat Yushin Okami, Brian Stan, and Michael Bisping. So just looking at the numbers, what do you see in there? Is there anything that we can take from just looking at that we couldn't take from the first fight?
You know, there's not much there. It's, I mean, the age is about the same. Everything's about the same. The only thing I can say is the reach. It's with Anderson and his jab, is that going to be able to pawn off Chael when he's standing up? You know, Chael wants to take to the ground. That's the most notable thing that I think from the first fight, is Anderson led him inside on the first fight. So his reach is really going to come to an advantage on this one.
All right, well, let me just step in for a second because there's a few things I want to talk about before we get into, like, the particulars of the fight and who we like and why we like them and all that. And I'll post some things to you and we'll get it figured out. So today they weighed in again. Anderson was a pound light, 184. Chael was right at 185. Chael looked really, really shredded to me, but he had a lot of weight to lose, so he might have just been thin from losing all that weight. Anderson hasn't lost since 2006. Chael's 5-1 in his last 6. His only loss, of course, is to Anderson. Now, here's the thing that I'm going to give you the quotes from the weigh-in. We're going to talk about what happened at the weigh-in. I want to get your thoughts on that, and then we'll talk about the actual rematch. So here's I'll do my best Chael Sonnen impression and give you the quote from the weigh-in. Okay. Champion versus icon. Myth versus legend. Anderson Silva versus Chael Sonnen. The fake guy versus the bad guy. That's my Chael. Now, this is what Anderson had to say in the post-fight. He said, "I don't have nothing. I don't respect Chael. Chael knows respect nothing. Chael no respect UFC. Chael no respect my country. Tomorrow I go to fight." So just on the heels of hearing that, let me get your impressions on the weigh-in today.
Man, the weigh-in, well, Chael's Chael, right? Of course, he's going to come with that tagline that you can use on every day. You know, it's like a WWE wrestler almost, how much he throws it out there. He loves doing that. That's who his persona has become. He likes throwing it out there. He likes saying stuff, and he wants to get under people's skin. Love him or hate him, he's just going to say whatever comes off the top of his mind. Now, what surprised me is how Anderson is, what he's been saying. I mean, he's kind of stepping out. And I shouldn't say it really shouldn't surprise me. It's just him being vocal towards Chael. Because if we remember, he kind of trash-talked Vitor when they were fighting, bringing the mask to that weigh-in. So, I mean, it's nothing else, but that may be who he is deep down inside. But I think today, at that weigh-in, he really came out and he has no respect for him whatsoever.
Okay, so let me step in here. Here's something I want to know. So let's talk about that. At the weigh-in today, what happened was Anderson Silva through kind of a shoulder, like a little, I'll give the camera an idea of what it was. It was something along the lines of that. He caught him he hit him pretty solidly. It was no joke what he hit him with. So the question I have is, one, if anybody else did that, would they be fined? The answer is probably yes. But the bigger question is this what was missing from Anderson and Chael's first fight in terms of, Anderson having a swagger? Anderson, I don't feel like he's doing this out of fear. I don't feel like he's like trying to intimidate. I think he feels good, and I think that he's now trying to, impose his will on Chael even before the fight. I mean, what do you think about how Anderson's acting and why he's acting that way?
Well, I think you're right. I mean, with this fight, he's coming in 100%. And, I don't care who you are. You don't want anybody to try to punk you when you're anywhere, on the mic, before the fight, during the fight. And I think that's the way he feels. I think he feels that Chael's trying to punk him a little bit by talking trash about him, his family, Brazil. And to me, the shoulder little nudge or pop, that was kind of uncalled for. But you know what? It's Anderson. I can't say I wouldn't have done the same. I'm here to prove that I'm coming Saturday night, and that's what he's going to do. He's going to come Saturday night. And you know me, I'm not the biggest Silva fan in the world, but I think he's right. I think you're right. He's ready. He's ready to come in there and go to town. And it was probably one of his best training camps. I think he's focused. And, yeah, he wants to step up today. When he threw that, he was going to say, hey, you know what, I'm here. Let's do this.
And you know what?
But I will have to say, too.
Well, I agree with that in the sense. I agree with that in the sense that it's funny because it's like, well, that's kind of messed up to give him a shoulder shot like that. Well, they're going to fight tomorrow night. So, at the end of the day, how bad if they would have fought today at the weigh-in, they're going to fight. So it's, you can't get too upset about it. But I took a couple notes and I got some things I want to throw at you just in terms of the fight from each side. And again, I don't want to spend. This is one of the biggest fights in UFC history. So I don't want to minimize it. We obviously can't spend all our time on it because there's some other good fights as well. But again, this is one of the biggest in terms of the pre-fight, if not the biggest, one of the 5 biggest fights in the history of the UFC. So it needs to get some time. But okay, so what I was looking at was what is the upside for Anderson going into this fight, and what is the upside for Chael? So first I'll hit you with the upside for Anderson, what he can kind of hang his hat on, and then the upside for Chael, and you tell me what you think. Okay, I got 3. Number 1, in the first fight, Anderson underestimated Chael, which he won't do this time. Number 2, Anderson was hurt. And number 3, which is kind of on the outside because it's the same now as it was before, Chael was on TRT in the first fight and then ultimately failed the drug test. So what do you think about those 3? And if you were Anderson, would you kind of, build yourself up in terms of, thinking that way? Like, hey, all these things were the case, and I still.
Yeah, I think if you're a champion like Anderson is, I think going with the first one was that whole fight. The first one, Chael pretty much took it to him the whole fight. And if you're a champion, even though you won in the last couple minutes, that still had to get under your skin. Anderson did say in the presser that Chael shouldn't have another chance at this belt. But to me, I think that got under his skin a little bit. I think he wants to revenge it. I want to show that he was hurt. He wants to lay it into him. So I think that is an upside for that.
Well,
now, with the second one.
Well, real quick, and the other thing with that one is that, and I've talked to some people about this, once you underestimate somebody, I've heard before, okay, well, he underestimated him. Well, by the second round, you should know you shouldn't underestimate him more. Once you underestimate somebody, you've underestimated them for months. Okay, so now you're in the octagon, all right, and you've already underestimated him. You can't just go, oh, this guy's serious. Now I got to get serious. You weren't serious 2 months ago when you were getting ready for it. You weren't serious a month ago or a couple weeks ago, or you can't just say, this guy wants to fight, I'm going to get serious now. No, once you underestimate him, you've now, everything, he's now a better fighter because you've underestimated him.
Right. That was it, right? You can't just flip the switch on. You underestimate him. You didn't come in well prepared enough. It's not like you can go back and train again. it is what it is. I mean, he underestimated him, and he kind of paid the price. You know, if he wouldn't have caught him with a choke at the end, it would have been a different story. Even though, if talking about the TRT, I mean, without saying that, I mean, he wouldn't have been able to win the belt, but still, he took it to him for 5 rounds, pretty much.
That's true. Now, on the other subject of him being hurt, do you think that he's not hurt, obviously, for this fight, and that's where all this bravado and all this swagger is coming from?
Oh, absolutely. I think he's 100% with this one. I think his swagger, he's got some swag in that step. I mean, coming out. I mean, even when he was coming out for the weigh-ins, did you see when he came out, he was shaking hands and then he was smiling. He was,
yeah.
You know, you could tell he's a little bit loose. He's ready for this. I mean, yeah, he's back.
All right, now here's my 3 for Chael. His 3 upsides of what he can look at from the first fight and kind of hang his hat on. He was about 50 seconds away from victory, so obviously that's a big one. He may have the recipe for Anderson. I mean, he trained at Team Quest, kind of with Dan Henderson, because he was in the Oregon Team Quest, or the Northwest Team Quest, and Henderson trained in Temecula. But I mean, they're both Team Quest, and Henderson did well against Anderson, ultimately getting submitted. And the third one is it was a one-sided fight. So I mean, for those 3 things for Chael, what do you think when he looks at the fight? How do you think he looks at those things, or do you think there's other things that maybe he looks at?
You know, he's probably going to look at the same thing. I mean, look what he did for 5 rounds. I mean, he did get caught, but for 5 rounds, he imposed his will. So what are you going to do? You're going to build on top of that. I think Chael, knowing him, his mentality is, I went in there and I beat him for all that time. I'm going to do it again. I'm going to impose my will on him just like I did before and just keep at it. I mean, yeah, he worked on some game. He's going to change some other things during camp, but that's the upside. The upside is, in his mind, he beat him. So, I mean, what better advantage is for Chael is to come in the ring already thinking, I already did this once. Let's do it again.
All right, so then let's. I was thinking about saving the predictions till the end, but let's just get to it right now. I mean, based on what we know before and what we've seen so far, how do you think it's going to go?
Wow, that's a good question because I mean, it's no between you and I, of course, how we've talked before. I'm not a huge Silva fan. I just don't like his background and other fights that he's been into, and the way he carried himself in some other fights. It kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Chael, I love the trash talking. I think he's going to come in. I think he's ready. I think he didn't look good at the weigh-in. He's prepared. But I'm honestly going to have to say Silva. I'm going to say Silva takes this fight, and I'm going to tell you why. I think he's going to use his jab more. I'm thinking he's going to try and keep it standing up. But I think Silva will come out, and I'm going to say, I'm going to make a prediction, round 2, KO by Silva.
All right, second round KO. I'm putting you down for that. Make it official. But so, you know, I think similarly. You know what though? I'm really looking forward to. I think this is going to be very interesting, this fight, and this is the reason why. I think that, you know, it was last time they fought. It was fight of the night, fight of the year, fight of whatever. Realistically, it was only that because Silva won ultimately. Had it not been, I mean, I don't know that you would have called it fight of the night if Silva wouldn't have won. So, which is a weird way to call it the fight of the night. But I think this may be the first war Anderson Silva's ever been in. Because Chael's not going away. So I like your second round KO. I don't think it's going to happen until the 3rd or the 4th. But I think that I want to see these guys trade. I mean, because Anderson brought up a good point in the press conference. He said, you know, everybody keeps saying that Chael had the dominant position for 4.5 minutes or 4.5 rounds and this, that, and the other. And he goes, that's why Chael should be so afraid, because if I had the dominant position for 4.5 seconds, the fight would have been over. He's like, he had the dominant position for 4.5 rounds in the fight, and I beat him. So I agree with that. But I mean, I'd like to see, you know, Anderson Silva get challenged. I'd like to see him trade. I'd like to see him get in there and just, like, have to battle back, which is kind of why I wish Chael wouldn't take him down. I know he's going to, but I wish he wouldn't. Because, and also, I'm going to go out on a limb, too, here and say watch for a Anderson Silva knee on one of those takedowns. I think that he's just raring to just take that guy's head off with a knee on this, because he knows the takedowns are coming. Everybody knows the takedowns are coming. You know, Chael said in the press conference, he said, I'm going to wait for Anderson to throw a kick, which he does in every fight, and I'm going to put my head in his chest and take him down. That's straight from the horse's mouth. So, I mean, it's coming. I'd like to see these guys in a war. I mean, I think they deserve it. And unfortunately, Chael's takedowns are way better than Anderson's takedown defense. So, I mean, we might not get it, you know. But I think there's also been a lot of talk of Chael taking down Anderson and going to side control, you know, or side mounting. Maybe that gives Anderson a door to get out of, you know, whereas when Chael was on him before, you know what I'm saying? Maybe Anderson can get out of that side mount a little easier than get out of that top mount, so, or you know, even when he had him in the guard. So I don't know. We'll see. But I think it's going to be a great fight. I think that these guys. I don't think it's these guys. The thing I'll give Chael Sonnen is that you don't get that whole. These guys hate each other, so no one wants to engage because nobody wants to be embarrassed by the other guy, like how Rampage and Rashad were.
Right.
You're not going to get
no, these two.
Yeah, Chael Sonnen's going. Chael's going. He doesn't care about anything. He's ready to take Anderson out. And I think, you know, a fight like this, do you think it comes down to who wants it more? Because Chael obviously.
It's two big hearts going at it. So I mean, I can't even tell you who wants it more, because they both equally, in my mind, want it just the same. So you're right. There's going to be no standoff when he calls it out. When the ref says let's do it, that's exactly what's going to happen. These two guys are going to come out right in the middle, and I think fireworks are going to start from the start to the finish. There's not going to be anybody filling anybody out or anybody like that. It's go time.
I agree, and this is what you look for. This is what makes the UFC great. And we're going to have to move on to the Forrest Tito fight here, but this is what makes UFC great, is that the anticipation. And you don't have that in boxing anymore because guys don't fight like that anymore. You know, the reason why people love to watch Tyson fight is because somebody was going to get clipped, and that was it. You know, and you didn't know when it was going to happen. These two guys are going to fight, and it's like there's going to be an explosion at some point in that octagon, and we don't know when it's going to be, but it's going to happen. You know, somebody's going to, you know, when these guys are on their feet, something's going to happen, because these are two guys that know the longer I let that other guy stay in this fight, I'm in trouble. So it has to end, and there's that anticipation of something that has got to give, and it has to give quickly. You know, so that's what you have to love about fights. You know, that's what the UFC has right now that other sports, you know, especially boxing, combat sports, just don't have. So, all right, now we're going to move on to Forrest Tito. So, what can we say about this fight? It's the rubber match, third fight. You know, Forrest against Tito. It's everything that you would want in a fight. Tito's retirement fight. He's going into the Hall of Fame tomorrow. He is, if not, I mean, these are two of the most important figures in UFC history, right? I mean, is that inarguable?
Oh, absolutely they are. I mean, Tito starting out, I mean, he pretty much carried the UFC when he was the champion. I mean, he was pretty much the grandfather of the UFC. And look what Forrest did. I mean, his fight pretty much put UFC back on the roadmap where everybody was following. I mean, that fight with Bonner is a trademark for the UFC. So it's I'm looking forward to this one too.
All right, we're gonna go in this corner and take a look at these guys. The breakdown. Tito Ortiz, obviously, you know, he's no longer the Huntington Beach bad boy. He's the people's champ now, so he says. But he's still fighting out of Huntington Beach. He's 37. He came in today at 204, so that's a little. He fights at 205, obviously, but he came in today at 204. 6'2", 74-inch reach. He's 18-10. His key victory, notable wins. It's been a while for them, but we got Guy Metzger, we got Vanderlei Silva, we have Ken Shamrock, Vitor Belfort. He beat Forrest Griffin, obviously, and the big one recently is Ryan Bader. Now flip it over to Forrest Griffin. He fights out of Vegas. He's 34 years old. He came in at 204 today as well. Looked good, 6'3", 77 inches of reach, 18-7. His key victories, interestingly enough, early in his career, beat Chael Sonnen. So I just figured I'd throw that in there just for, you know, a nice bit of trivia. Stephen Bonner obviously beat Tito, beat Shogun, beat Rampage, and also Rich Franklin. Now, in this, it was a pretty intense stare down at the weigh-ins today. So what are your thoughts? Oh, just real quick, a few facts on them. Here's the bad news with Tito. He's won 1 fight in his last 8. Ryan Bader. He did fight Rashad Evans, and this was a game Rashad Evans to a draw, but even that was kind of questionable. As far as Forrest Griffin, he's 3-3 in his last 6 fights. He's got wins over Tito, Rich, and Rampage, but he lost in a little retribution match to Shogun. Who could forget is the destruction Anderson put on him, and then he lost to Rashad. So what were your thoughts about the weigh-in, how they both looked, and what are your thoughts on the fight?
Yeah, both of them coming in at 204. I mean, they both look great. I mean, but these guys usually come to fight, so they usually do look great. I mean, they take this very seriously. The stare down was the greatest part. I mean, nose to nose, and it was intense. You could tell. And I'm gonna tell you why. Tito wants to win because he's on his way out. And guess what?
Fight?
Yep. But guess what? Nobody wants to lose to a guy going out. Am I right or am I wrong? I mean,
it's true.
Forrest doesn't. Yeah, Forrest doesn't. I mean, he's gonna keep fighting. He doesn't want to lose to a guy that's gonna retire, that's going in the Hall of Fame. I mean, the same day.
And real quick, the quote from Forrest Griffin was, "If I lose to Tito Ortiz, I'll retire from life." Now, it's a funny quote, but that's what he said. He said that basically like, I shouldn't be losing to a guy that's going to retire, especially, in Forrest's defense. Tito's won 1 of his last 8 fights. I mean, that's, you want to talk about a guy who, and all this week, Tito's been very much on I'd like to thank Tita and Dana and Richard, he just wants to really thank everybody. I'd be thanking him, too, if I won 1 of my last 8 fights, because I'm keeping my job based on what I did for, he's kind of been grandfathered into a UFC job. I mean, listen, he was as big as it came. Back when I first started watching UFC, I mean, I was one of the originals, but, in the heyday when I was watching it, with my buddies, it was, 40, 41, 42. I mean, all those ones when Tito was carrying, he was the name, him and Chuck.
Right.
I still think he should have fought Chuck 1 more time. I thought that would have been a great way for them both to go out. But, he wants to fight Forrest. I'll take that. I'll take what I can get. But, what I just think that, yeah, you're right. Forrest doesn't want to lose. And that's the thing about Forrest. Because of his sense of humor, because of his intellect, no one realizes how much of a competitor this guy is and how much he doesn't like to lose. And you know when you see it? When someone calls him on it. When somebody goes, Forrest is a joke. He screws around. Forrest's like, am I a joke? Because I'm not a joke at all. I take this very seriously. I'm a funny guy, and I don't take it as serious as maybe you do. I don't take anything as serious as you do. But Forrest takes that stuff personally. Now, when you call him out about not being competitive, he'll show you exactly how competitive he is. So, like you said, he doesn't want to lose this fight either. So, I'm going to hit you.
Yeah, he doesn't. But real quick, though, I'm going to touch back because you know how you said Tito was thanking everybody, this week. I'm going to tell you, if you watched all those pressers and all those interviews, Tito has been on an emotional roller coaster this week. I mean, he's broke down a couple times, talking about his past, his, what's going now and what he's moving on to, and I think this fight is really got him caught up in an emotional situation, and I don't know how to take that yet.
Yeah, well, you're right. Tito's an emotional guy. He's been talking about his upbringing recently, and he didn't have a father, and I don't want to make light of that or kind of dismiss it, but that's not the kind of, you don't want to be digging up those bones the week of a fight.
Right.
You know what I
Well,
mean?
did you see his shirt today at the weigh-in?
Yeah, he wears his heart on his sleeve.
Yeah, there you go. That says it all.
Right. That's true. So here's a couple notes I got from the Forrest-Tito fight, and let me get your thoughts on that. First one I had was, they both said this, and it could be, it could really be true. They're going to fall back into the, when guys fight a lot, it doesn't matter where they are in their careers, they got a pace that they kept up in those other fights. They're going to, Mickey Ward and Arturo Gatti, if they fought 100 times, they're going to fight the same way. That's how they know to fight each other. So that's number one. The other thing is, and I was actually going to write something about this on the blog and really never got around to it, but my question is, and this is a little bit of a, can't thing to say, but do you think we're going to get the Tito of old or old Tito Saturday night? That's the question.
You know what? That's the $1 million question of today. What Tito's going to come in there? Here's what I think. Emotions are running high. He's going to be pumped up for that first round. We'll get the old Tito, the of old. He's going to come out and start banging. He wants to take him down and do some ground and pound, and we just might get that. Now, we both know he kind of came that way with Rashad, too. He kind of came out, and he actually got Rashad down and put the choke on him. So, but guess what? He tired out a little bit, and I hope that's not what we see on this fight.
And that's the tough part. I mean, you can do all the cardio you want to do, and that's why they're talking all this about TRT lately. You know, should we let fighters? And we'll podcast on all that stuff on an off week. You know, we got plenty to talk about with fights, but with this TRT, I mean, yeah, you can do all the cardio you want, man. You can run 6-7 miles a day or whatever it is, 10, and get your cardio together for this. At the end of the day, you're 37 years old. You know, and you got the walkout, the emotions with that. You got the pre-fight, the emotions with that. You're hopping around. You're coming out the mosh. You know, you're 37. You know, you're retiring for a reason. That's what he has. You know, that's what he's going to find out in the third round. Oh, this is why I'm retiring. The fourth round. Oh yeah, this is why this is my last fight. You know, but can he call on it one more time? You know, it's the old saying, and believe me, I'm the last guy that ever wants to quote Toby Keith, but you know, he's not as good as he once was, but can he be as good once as he ever was? That's the question. That's the question that's going to get answered tomorrow night.
Yep. Hey, and don't count him out put a knockout on him either. You know, he's still got some hands on him. So
he does. He's got sneaky hands. He does.
Yeah, and if he catches four standing up, it might be lights out.
I agree. I think this is going to be a great fight. I'm glad they added it. I mean, listen, this card isn't what it once was either. You know, at one time we had, you know, Uriah Faber and Dominic Cruz on this card. I mean, it was a big card. It still is. I mean, what they're calling it now is kind of like a boxing card. You know, one huge fight, and they think that's the way the UFC is going. But, you know, I think, and we're going to get right now to the Kung Lee Patrick Cote fight. But, you know, this is a better card than people are kind of giving it credit for. I mean, obviously, you know, the roof's going to fly off in Vegas when Silva and Sonnen get into the ring. You and I were there when Rashad and Rampage fought, and we thought the seats were going to fall down. I mean, it was insane before that fight. You know, it was a little disappointing after,
yeah, it was
insane before. It's going to be all of that.
It was only disappointing for you.
No, it was a disappointing fight for everybody. Believe me, it was. I didn't like the outcome, but it was a disappointing fight for everybody. All right, so listen, let's move on to Patrick Cote and Kung Lee. I think this is a little bit of a sleeper fight. I really do. These guys both like to throw. You know, they've both had good performances, and then some they'd like to forget. So we're going to go in this corner and take a look at their measurables, kind of. So first off, for Kung Lee, we got San Jose. They got 40. So, you know, that's a big deal. Fighting at, today he came in at 185. On the numbers, he's 5'10", 69-inch reach. 7-2. His key victories are over Scott Smith and Frank Shamrock. Rolling over to Patrick Cote. He's fighting out of Montreal. He's 32. 185 on the numbers as well today. He's 5'11", 75-inch reach. He's 17-7. He also defeated Scott Smith. He beat Kendall Grove, and he beat Ricardo Almeida, which Ricardo Almeida is a weird guy. You know, he's a little bit better than you think he is because of his past, but, you know, he's got a name, and he beat him. So a few things that I also want to talk about with these two guys are last fight for Cote in the UFC was 2010. All right, he lost to Tom Law. You know, nothing great about that. He previously lost to Alan Belcher and then Anderson Silva before that. So, I mean, you know, these are some guys. I probably like to forget the Lawler fight, but, you know, losing to Belcher and Silva, that's respectable. Last time Kung Lee fought was in 2011. He lost to Vanderlei Silva. He's also lost to Scott Smith, who he beat. So, I don't know. You know, you don't know what you're going to get with these guys. So, what are your thoughts on this fight?
You know, I'm interested about this fight right here. I mean, Patrick's coming back to the UFC. You know he's got to be pumped about that. Kung Lee, you know, against Vanderlei Silva, he got beat up, point blank. But I don't think he came into that fight what he was when he came from Strikeforce. And today, at the weigh-ins, I kind of had mixed feelings when I saw him come up on stage and kind of looked at him. I don't know. I'm kind of confused about this one, actually. I don't know what we're going to see in Kung Lee. I think he looked good on press day when he was working out, open workouts. He looked really good. Cote, I think he, being back in the UFC, I think he's ready. He looked pretty good at the weigh-in. Other than that, it's going to be – it could be a sleeper fight. You're right.
Well, here's the thing. And on their best day, okay, when these guys were both in their primes, it would have been a hell of a fight because neither one of these guys, Kung Lee, could not care less about going to the ground. He wouldn't even care. If you told him that you would do kickboxing rules, he'd be fine with that. So, and Cote, you know, he likes to swing too. So, I just don't know if these guys at this point in their career can deliver the fight that Joe Silva thought he would. You follow me?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, I follow you. And I think that's what we're all waiting for. I mean, we're going to wait and see when these two guys come out and step into the ring, what we're going to see. And you'll see that, I think, in the first couple of minutes. You know, you're right. Kung Lee, he could care less if it goes to the ground. Guess what he wants to do? He wants to kick and kick and kick, and then he'll throw some jabs and some punches in there, but he's going to kick you. And that's what he's good at. And if he comes back in, and if he, like the open, I'm going to go back to the open workouts, you know, he was looking good. He was throwing good. He was kicking good. And I think if he comes in like that, I think Patrick's in for a long night. But again, Cody's come in, and he wants to keep it up too. So you know what? This might be a battle of the stand-up, and it could go either way.
I agree, and I think obviously Kung Lee has more to lose. I mean, I don't know how much more he wants to fight, but if he loses to Patrick Cote, it's a wrap. I mean, he's no longer a marketable fighter. I don't think. I mean, he lost to Vanderlei. There's some dignity in that. But, and this is no disrespect to Cote, but I mean, if Cote loses, they might keep him around, put him on prelim cards or whatever. He's still got a name. I mean, he fought Tito way back when. He's fought some guys. I mean, he's fought some.
Right.
You know, he's got a name behind him. You know, he fought Anderson. So you can do something with Patrick Cote. Kung Lee, he's either fighting big names or no. But Kung Lee's not going to go on a prelim card. He doesn't want anything to do with that, especially at 40. So
right.
I think that he's got more to lose in this fight, but I don't know how much longer he wants to be a fighter. I don't know where he's at with that. So,
right. Yep.
You know, I think it could be a good fight. I think in a perfect world for me, they would bang for one round and then somebody, because I think if they go any longer than one round, they're both going to just. I don't know if they have 3 rounds of great fighting. So
right.
It'd be a great 1 round, or you know, give me a great first round and somebody gets knocked out in the second. That'd be my perfect world. So and that's pretty much what I think's going to happen. Really, just quick, just to touch back on what we were talking about. I don't even know how we forgot. Who do you like, Tito and Forrest? And then we'll get to Cote and Kung Lee.
Oh, going back to Tito and Forrest.
Yeah, we never made a pick.
I'm gonna give. I'm going for the rubber match. I'm gonna go with Forrest. I think Forrest is. He doesn't want to be disrespected and go and have Tito go out on his name, and like you said earlier, Forrest, just his mentality is that way. So I'm going decision. I'm going decision, and Forrest takes it.
Let me tell you what's interesting about that. If it goes to decision, Tito Ortiz will be the first UFC fighter ever to fight inside the octagon for 5 hours. If it goes all 5 rounds, it will be 5 hours in the octagon. That's insane. I'm actually going to go with Tito because, you know, whatever. I wear my heart on my sleeve. I'm nostalgic. You know, I'm sentimental. You know, whatever. I want to see the guy go out. Listen, they talk a lot about, you know, Dana White said the Bonner-Griffin match is what led to the UFC being what it is today, and blah, 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 blah. Nobody even cares about the UFC without Tito Ortiz. He's the most recognizable fighter in the history of the UFC. People that don't have any idea who Royce Gracie is know who Tito Ortiz is. There's one Tito Ortiz. Everybody knows who he is. Blonde-haired, you know, stocky Mexican dude. Everybody knows that. Everyone knows Tito Ortiz. I would challenge that he's the most recognizable fighter in the world. And, you know, I kind of want to see him go out on a high note.
I would agree with that.
Moving forward, back to the Kung Lee Patrick Cote fight. Who you got in that one?
You ready for it? Here it comes for you. Kung Lee, knockout, first round, kick to the head.
Really?
That's what I'm going with. I
thought you were going to go, you know, Kung Lee with a north-south choke or something. I thought you were going to throw me for a loop there. You're like, hey, Kung, you ready for this? And it's kick to the head. Dude, I think, you know what? I think I'm going to go different than you. I think that Patrick Cote is going to get him with a short inside right hook, like just a short one, you know, and he's going to catch Kung leaning. You know, I don't know why The funny thing about that pick of mine is there'd be no reason for Kung Lee to be leaning in because he throws kicks, but neither here nor there. So I'm going with a short inside hook to put him out. All right, so next up we're going to go with easily my favorite name in MMA, Young Hyung Stun Gun Kim, which is funny because you can't say his name without putting Stun Gun in there, and he's going against Damian Maya. So we're going to take a look at their numbers. Go in this corner.
No, we're not.
Okay, so we saw him at the weigh-ins today. Maya was 170. Stun Gun was 170. Here's a few things that you need to know about both these guys. Damian Maya's lost 2 of his last 3. He lost to Munoz, lost to Weidman, which two guys that are going to fight, 2 guys that are kind of on the rise. And he had the high-profile fight with Anderson Silva where he was, screaming at him, and Dana wanted to cut him and all that nonsense. And then Stun Gun, he has 1 loss in his career. Do you know who that loss was to? Here's some trivia for you. At 170.
Who did he lose to?
Carlos Condit. I'll give it to you. Carlos Condit.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, the guy's got 1 loss in his career, and it's to Condit. I mean, listen, I'm not saying he's a world beater here, and he's taking on, all comers and everybody that's, whatever, but, that it is what it is. He's got 1 loss, Carlos Condit. So how do you think you guys look in the weigh-ins, and what are your thoughts on the fight?
I think, actually, when I took down my notes on this one, I put Kim as a beast. That's what my notes say. I think he came in looking like a beast. And Damian Maya, he looked better than he has his last couple of fights coming in the weigh-in. I will give him that. But coming in at 170, but I think I don't see Damian now beating Kim. I just don't see it. I think Kim, he's younger. Even that 1 loss to Condit, still the guy has been a beast in the ring, and I think that I saw the same thing on the weigh-ins.
I agree, and Kim's a funny guy. It's you don't know what he does well. Like I can't sit here and just wax poetically about what's great about Stun Gun, but he's good. He's a solid guy. He does what he needs to do to win. That's huge. And I think that that's the book on fighting Damian Maya. The guy tapped out the guy that's fighting for the title in the same night, so not that long ago.
Right.
So he's susceptible to submission. That's the area. I just think that Maya's time has come and gone. And I think that he's the guy that they have in the UFC every once in a while, who's kind of I call him like a Gracie throwback. They just throw a guy in there who proves to you that if you have jiu-jitsu, you can still win.
Right.
When you really can't. You can win, but you can't. It's like a one-trick pony. You can't go too far. So I like Stun Gun in this. I think this kind of Damian Maya's keeping Gates right now, and this is going to be the fight that has Stun Gun fighting, in my opinion, the loser of Weidman and Munoz. That's what I think is next for him. So actually, they're 185, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, I see him Stun Gun getting in that mix though, because I got thrown off because Maya moved down. But yeah, I see Stun Gun now kind of moving into that next echelon of 170 if he beats Maya, which spoiler alert, I think he will.
Yeah. Here's a spoiler alert. That I'm saying that fight's not going to go past the first round at all. It's going to be the Stun Gun, and he's going to stun him, and that's the end.
And real quick, I just think that Damian Maya needs to round out his game. If he's going to stick around, because there's this group of guys, that just think that the way to go is I'm going to pull guard, and they're going to have a good fight if someone's willing to engage them. Some guy goes, you know what? My jiu-jitsu is good. I'm tapping everybody at the in the camp. My jiu-jitsu is good enough to get Maya, and the guy that's willing to engage Maya in that is A, going to lose, and B, that's the guy that gives my fight fans want to watch. Everyone
Right.
else that goes, oh yeah, that's right, he's world-class jiu-jitsu guy, I'm just going to stay on my feet. Then Damian Maia's, it's a wrap. Damian Maia's got nothing on his feet. So, all right, so we agree on that one, so let's just move on. So next up, Chad Mendes is fighting Cody McKenzie, which is interesting because they were former training partners, albeit for not that long. And Cody McKenzie kind of, called him out, and it was interesting. So I think that it's going to make for an interesting fight. So it's at 145 pounds. Here's in the corner with these guys. Mendes, obviously, he's fighting out of Sacramento. He's with that those alpha guys out there with Uriah Faber. 27, 145, 5'6", 66-inch reach, 11-1. The one loss coming to obviously Jose Aldo. No shame in that. He beat Cub Swanson. Also beat Vasquez. Cody McKenzie's fighting out of Spokane, Washington. 24. He was on the Ultimate Fighter. 154 pounds. Or, I'm sorry. He's in this fight he came in at 145. So that's backwards. He's 6 foot, which is very weird for a 145 pounder. But, it needs to work. He's 74-inch reach, 13-2, and his big win came over Tom Wilkinson. So Aaron Wilkinson. Here's my question with these guys. And it did get a little contentious at the weigh-in. They were butting heads. I really think Mendes is bothered by a former training partner calling him out. So what are your thoughts on this fight?
Yeah, I mean, who wouldn't be bothered if your former training partner calls you out? I mean, it is what it is. McKenzie's dropping down to 145. He was fighting bigger, and this is his first fight down. And I think with this fight, he picked the wrong fight to come down at 145 and ask for Mr. Mendes. There's a height difference, there's a reach difference, but I'm going to tell you, Mendes' wrestling skills coming from Team Alpha, McKenzie's got another thing coming if he thinks he's going to just stand up and throw with him or get him down and choke him out.
Well, two things.
Mendes look good.
Two things I want to talk to you about when it comes to this fight. One is the technical thing, and the other is just something I think you'll find interesting. I was watching the UFC roundtable with Royce Gracie, Mark Coleman, Couture, and Tito Ortiz. And they asked Royce Gracie why he never trained with friends, why he didn't have friends when he was, I was just a Gracie's, he never trained with anybody. And he said, well, it was a different time then, it was more personal, and there wasn't friendships. And Royce Gracie had the greatest line when it comes to training with friends and, bringing guys into your camp. He said, I'm not going to feed the lion that's going to eat me. And I was like, that's an interesting way to put it. And now, these guys are now, why I find this interesting is because Chad Mendes is a great wrestler. What does Cody McKenzie do? That crazy guillotine choke that nobody understands. Nobody can figure out, and it got guys on the Ultimate Fighter, and that's his thing. Well, guess who's seen that and knows the ins and outs of it? Chad Mendes, who trained with him. So that's the one thing that would have nullified Mendes' wrestling potentially, and Mendes has the book on it. So, and I don't think McKenzie's boxing is good enough to keep, Mendes from shooting. He doesn't have a jab to that extent.
Yeah. Nope. I think, you're right. Mendes pretty much is going to control the fight with his takedown ability, and I think that's how it's going to go. And listen, I got to throw this in too. Today at the weigh-ins, Cody McKenzie looked like Doc Holliday to me. I just have to throw that out there.
Yeah, I don't know what I saw a couple of pictures of him online, and I don't know what he's going for. He kind of has like a Gangs of New York look, and I can't put my finger on it, dude. It's weird. But that's his thing, and it is what it is. So, but yeah, I got Mendes in this fight, and it's not close.
Yeah, me too.
I think Mendes is gonna make short work of him.
Yeah, I think you're right. Mendes is just gonna take it. He's gonna use his ground game. He's gonna use his wrestling skills. It's gonna be a short match in my book, and I think it's gonna be Mendes all night long.
All right, so let's go ahead and move on to pretty much the last fight of interest in our book. It's going to be Melvin Guillard going against Fabricio Camões. So let's take a look in the corner and see what's doing with Guillard and Camões. Melvin's fighting out of Boca Raton. He's 29. Came in at 155, 5'9", 71-inch reach. He's 29-10. His key wins were over Marcus Davis, Dennis Seaver, Evan Dunham, and Shane Roller. On the other side of the coin, we got Fabricio Camosh. He's fighting out of San Diego. 33 years old, 155 as well, 5'10", 72-inch reach, 14-6 is his record, and his big win was over Efrain Escudero. So how you seeing this fight? The big question for me is going to be what Melvin Guillard is going to show up. So what are your thoughts on the fight?
Yeah, he looked like, in the weigh-in, he looked pretty pumped up, even though he did come out in some Speedos, but that's neither here or there. He did. He looked good during the weigh-ins, and I think he's fired up about this when you know he was about to reach the top of his game in the UFC, and he kind of got that short-lived with that quick fight. So, you know, I think it's going to be Melvin Guillard on this one.
I agree. A couple of things I just want to say on this. You know, I kind of read the body language in the weigh-ins. These guys were button heads in the weigh-in, and that's, you know, that's whatever it is. I mean, you never know if guys are just posturing or what that means. Guillard's on a 2-fight losing streak right now, so that's big. He had a 5-fight winning streak previous to that. His losses are to Miller and Lozon, so there's no shame in that. Camosh is on a 3-fight winning streak. He beat again Escudero. His last loss was to Pellegrino, and he also had a draw to Kyle Uno. So I mean, he's been in there with some guys. It's not like this is going to be too big of a stage for him. You know what I'm saying? But Melvin Guillard, man, he's one of those guys. He's a lot to take. He comes out, and he's got high energy. Interestingly enough, he's high energy early and low cardio late for a while. But you know, he's a lot, man. He asks a lot of the guys he's fighting against to kind of keep his pace. So I don't know. I don't know if Camosh can hang with that. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think he'll be able to either. Melvin kind of reminds me of Clay Guida a little bit with his style. He comes in, he moves around. You know, he has great stand-up. But I will have to say, if Fabricio can get him to the ground, you know, it might be a different story. That's how his last 2 fights ended. You get Melvin on the ground, especially in the later rounds, and you know you can take that top mount from the side mount, maybe work it into an armbar, something like that, and you can probably get him to tap out. So it's going to be interesting. If Melvin can get him standing up and keep it standing up, I think it's going to be his. But later in rounds, if Fabricio can last that long, you know, it could be a different story.
All right, so obviously you're picking who? You're on Guillard, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Guillard.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I think Guillard's gonna take it. I think he's just too much. But we'll see. I mean, again, like you said, that's why they fight him, and if we can get him on the ground, we'll see. So now looking to the rest of the card again, we're not gonna go into great detail with the rest of these fights like we did with the other ones. We're not even gonna hit them all. What else on the rest of the card is interesting to you?
You know, I guess I don't know. You know who I kind of liked at the weigh-in was Easton. You know, he looked like he was fired up and he looked like he was ready to go, and I like him. I like Mike Easton. He comes in and he throws everything out. He's energetic. And Ivan's no joke either. So you know what? That fight could be fight of the night. Those two going at it with the stand up and then with the ground too. You know, it's that 135 weight class. You never know what's going to happen.
Well, yeah, it was very interesting at the weigh-ins. Menjivar posed throwing a high kick, and Mike Easton more incredible Hulk fist. So I mean,
yeah.
Definitely the most colorful weigh-in, other than the Anderson Silva shoulder shot. But a couple things about these guys. Easton came in right at 135. Menjivar was 136. Mike Easton's 12-1. Now his most notable victory is John Dodson, who fought him the Ultimate Fighter. But I mean, 12-1 is 12-1. And Menjivar is on a 3-fight winning streak. Last time he lost was to Brett Pickett in WEC. So you know, it could be a hell of a fight. You know, it seems like they were ready to go. It seems like they're excited for the stage, and it looks like they're ready to really get in there and put some people, you know, pick up some Twitter followers and maybe make a couple dollars. You know, really put themselves on the map. It looks like this could be the fight. Menjivar's been around for a while, so but you know, He seems like he's ready to go. He looked fit. I think he's fought at bigger weights before, right?
Yeah.
And now he's coming down to 135. So I mean, we'll see. And
Yeah,
again, that division that's pretty much a 4-man division, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty close to a 4-man division now.
Right. So I mean, if you have a good couple fights, I mean, it's almost like in the early stages now, it's kind of like women's MMA. I mean, if you're a good fighter, you're going to get noticed because there's only so many fights you can make until we start getting more and more 135-pounders in the division. Now that they're trying to build it, there's the potential to really put yourself out there early on.
Yeah,
the fight that fascinates me is the Alessio Shane Roller fight. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm kind of torn about this one. John's been around for a while. He's got a lot of fights under his belt, and Shane, he's 10-6, I believe, and fighting at 155. Their stand-up game is what's going to come out. John has a ground game too, so that might be interesting. But I think these two are going to bang it out. They both look good. They had a lot of respect for each other. So it's going to be one of those clashes. They're going to come in, probably fill each other out for a little bit, and then probably just start pounding it out.
Yeah, I mean, they're both, I don't want to say they're big-name guys. Obviously, they're name guys. Roller beat Jamie Varner in WEC. Lost his last 3 fights, though. He lost to Michael Johnson, TJ Grant, and Melvin Gillard. Alessio, he lost his last fight to Mark Vocek, but he had his 3 wins in the prior fights in lesser cards, lesser organizations. But I don't know. Again, this is another one of those fights that kind of could come together and be a good fight just based on these guys are kind of in similar places in their career, and they realize this. It's like fighting in the prelims of UFC 100. Like, you're going to be seen if you put on a show. This is the time to put on a show.
There's no bigger stage than what you're going to be fighting tomorrow night. This is it. One of the biggest fights this year, of course, and maybe of all time. And if you're on that card, there's going to be a lot of people watching. So you definitely want to come out and fire it up, especially to get a bonus. I mean, if you're looking for a bonus tomorrow night, you better bring your A game, because there's a lot of fights that can end up with knockout, fight of the night, submission of the nights. So they're going to have to be geared up and ready to go.
All right, so yeah, that's pretty much what's going on with the rest of the card. I mean, there's a few other fights here and there. I won't bore you with the details out there. If you want to see them, you can check Facebook. We pretty much hit everything that's going to be on the main card. So now, I got to be honest. I feel like, it's Christmas Eve. To be honest with you, I can't wait. I haven't been excited for a fight like this in a real long time. I was excited for the Jones-Rashad fight, but I kind of knew that wasn't going to live up to the hype. I just knew they were going to kind of. I thought there was a chance that Jones might do something dynamic, but I don't know. I knew it was going to be a little bit of a letdown. So, just give me your final thoughts on the entire card, and we'll wrap it up.
It's just like you said. It's Christmas Eve, and I can't wait to wake up tomorrow. It's going to be electric. I mean, the fans there. I mean, just look at the weigh-ins. You could barely hear anything in there. I mean, the commentators were talking about it. It's electric. It's the best one they've ever been to. You got people that hate Anderson Silva. You got people that hate Charles Sonnen. Well, I shouldn't say hate, but dislike pretty well. And they were both getting booed and cheers. So it's gonna be just fantastic, electric. The rest of the card looks good. Tito's retirement, that's gonna be interesting. It's in my book, even after the reset for what it used to be, what the card used to be, it's still going to be a hell of a card.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think it's going to be a great card. I can't wait. And again, afterwards, we'll come back on here and we'll wrap it all up for you. We're going to do a Sunday morning podcast just to let everybody in on what went down. I fully expect it to be a very animated Sunday morning podcast, just kind of everything that we're going to watch go down on Saturday night. So again, just so everybody knows, it's going to be, in the words of Chael Sonnen, 7 o'clock or 7 at 7, on the west and 10 on the east. That's when it's going down. It's on pay-per-view. UFC 148 should be a great card. We're both stoked about it, and we'll check back in with you on Sunday morning for TJ Craig.
Thank you, sir. Can't wait. Hope I'm hungover on some fights.
This is John Franklin. We'll see you guys Sunday morning.